Interval House, the state's largest domestic violence intervention and prevention organization, building on its services for immigrants dealing with domestic violence. Joining us to talk all about it this morning, President and CEO Mary Jane Foster. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Quickly, going to ask you about the news of the day. What we just saw there, that man and his wife. It is a scene that we see often.
It's unfortunately altogether too familiar. We've had 14 homicides in Connecticut last year, a number of them stabbings. Death by stabbing, and so many over the course of this last fall. It feels like an increase. It feels like an increase in intensity, and this is just much more common than we should experience.
Absolutely. We did invite you on to talk about this great new grant that you folks have to serve an immigrant population right here in our community. Right. What is this all about? How will it help you?
Well, it's very exciting. It's a significant grant from the Victims of Crime Act to work with the immigrant population in Hartford. And what it is going to allow us to do, we've always worked with immigrant victims of domestic violence, but it's going to build our capacity. We'll be partnering with the Hartford Library, with the Connecticut Institute of Refugees and Immigrants, and other organizations to bring all the resources we can to stabilize victims of domestic violence in the immigrant community.
This is called Hope Beyond Fear, and you are working with some specially trained bilingual professionals.
Yes.
How will that help?
Well, there are two things. We have three new positions. One is a bilingual community outreach coordinator, so that we are out in the community. We have the capacity to be out in the community more frequently and more broadly. And then we have two advocates that, in addition to our other advocates, are working directly with immigrant victims. So we have many more hours. We have wider bandwidth. In addition to which, there is a singular focus. If you are an immigrant without permanent residency or citizenship, and you find yourself in an abusive situation, you feel twice as vulnerable as perhaps others do.
And we to that point, we've had you on to talk about a lot of issues connected to domestic violence before, some unique challenges to this population when it comes to getting the help they need.
Really unique. And what's interesting is that it's no longer a language. We have the tools to be able to communicate across language barriers, but the cultural differences are really very, very significant. So we need to bridge those cultural differences and then correct some of the disinformation that's out there. One of the things that happens in situations like that is that victims are threatened by their abuser with deportation, with calling the police, destruction of important documents like passports or birth certificates or health insurance cards. So all of those things, when you are an immigrant and you have language barriers and you have cultural barriers, make it that much more difficult to navigate towards a safer life.
So what should someone at home do, whether they're part of this immigrant population or they know a neighbor or friend who may be in trouble? What should they do today?
Well, we would ask, first of all, that you give us a call at 860-838-8467, and that is our dedicated line to immigrant victims.
All right, I do need to cut you off. We'll have more on our website. We have some breaking news this morning.